Hello everybody, welcome to this video series on Flambient photography. This first entry here is going to be just a basic intro to Flambient, how the fundamentals work, how to shoot a very simple normal room like this. I am using a Panasonic GH6 for this. Mirrorless camera, usually used for video, but it has like a 23, 25 megapixel sensor on it, which is perfectly fine for our uses here. And we're not going to be doing any bracketing on this, so no worries there. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a video here with my phone, and I will show you the setup I have going on here. So we have a Godox X2T here. It's the Olympus Panasonic version. And then I'm using an adapter for single pin isolation there so it doesn't mess up any of the white balance, although not extremely necessary with how I have this set up here. And then I'm using the first three custom settings on my camera for different modes here. So the first custom setting is set to an aperture priority mode at f7.1 at a +1 exposure compensation ISO 320. And I use natural color profile for this, which can be changed in post because I use RAW, shooting in RAW right there. And I have flash set to turned off. So if I were to turn this on here, my flash trigger, and I go to my second setting here, it's actually not showing up at the top. Normally it would show a flash here, but it's not. Anyway, yeah, flash is turned off for this first custom mode. And yeah, this is basically just for our ambient exposure right here. And then my second mode is set to also F7, ISO 320. I have the flash mode turned on because this will be our flash frame. I have it set to a shutter speed of 125 to start, and I adjust this accordingly based on the houses I shoot. And then my third custom action is also f7.1 ISO 200 this time, with a white balance set to 5500 and a shutter speed of 250. This is for our window pulls. And these are going to be the three settings we will be using here, and I will go over how this works here in a moment. So I will be showing these images on screen here as I'm taking them. I am using an AD200 with a little side pouch here. It is currently set to 1/4, and it is communicating with my flash trigger here. And that's basically my primary flash. I'll sometimes whip out my AD600 if I feel like I need some extra light, and it also has a circular, whatever you would call it, hood, which helps kind of disperse the light, which is a little bit more even and softer than the kind of rectangle lens on the AD200 here. So just quickly going over how this is going to work here. Okay, so we're going to set up our shots here. For our ambient, you're going to want that histogram to be just right of center. Now, since I'm pointing at windows here, this can kind of, like if I were to just block this, you can see the histogram change right away. Really bright windows can affect this. So I have it set to a default of +1 exposure compensation on this aperture priority mode here. But I find I sometimes have to up it to 2, sometimes 3, depending on how bright the windows are. And you want that main peak of the histogram to be just right of center. Then you take a look at the frame, everything look well exposed inside, ignore the windows. Yeah, that looks good to me. I could even maybe bring it down just a hair. That's probably fine. So we'll be shooting this shot at +1 2/3. Now, dialing in the flash shot here, basically what we're going to want to do is adjust the shutter speed here to see, based on this house and this day and this lighting, how much ambient light do we want to mess with here. So dropping it down to 125, 160, the ambient light starts to drop off. 200 and 250 is about as far as you can go with flash speeds and sync speeds on triggers and flashes. And so you can maybe get away with this. Also, if you have a higher power flash than like an 8200, maybe a 400 or 600 could get you through on 250 by default, but I like to kind of adjust this around. And I think that 160 works really well here. Most of the ambient light is gone in the room, not a whole lot coming in from the outside. So that works for me here. Now, if you need a bit of extra light, you find that your flash is not working great. Like let's say, for example, I turn this on, and here, I'm gonna use, normally I use my phone for this, so I'll set a timer here. If I have my flash turned on for, let's do 1 second. Sorry, 1/2, there we go. And then I just point this right at the ceiling and bounce it off. Let's take a look at what this looks like here. Okay, and then I just review the frame. It doesn't actually look too bad on 1/2. But if you need more light and you're at 1/2 or even full power, and you're finding that you're just not lighting up the space very well, sometimes that can be because of the light in the house during daytime or the paint color, it's not bouncing well. You can adjust the f-stop. You can go to 6.3, sometimes 5.6 if you need to. And you can also up the ISO to like 400, even higher if need be. I find f7.1 and ISO 320 to be a good, good middle ground. And I've covered some of this in my Flambient blending for large rooms video. Go check that out if you would like to learn more about that principle. I'll cover some of that here. But I find that this looks pretty good. 160, I just tested the flash, seems to work okay. So you can go ahead and save this to your custom mode. And then I'll maybe go to like 200 or 250 for smaller rooms later on in the house here. Okay, so I will be showing you guys the results of these different images as they come through here. So like I said, f7.1 ISO 320, I'm gonna go to a plus 1.6, 2/3 for the ambient shot here. And I like to use my phone as a trigger for the camera, keeps things nice and easy. Just use a Bluetooth shutter remote control here, connects pretty quickly. Okay, so there's the ambient done. Switch over to my second one here, shutter speed of 160. Like I said, 1/2 power seems to work good. I might up it to 1/2.3. Just pop it right above the camera. Now I see that there are some spots here where we're gonna need to go in and maybe get some extra light in the back corner. So I'm gonna go do that now and you'll see these photos as they come through. So basically all I did there was I went further into the frame, went to the edges, and just added some extra light into that back area. I feel like the hallway over there is probably fine, but I'm gonna light it just in case we need it. There's a 1/4 power, and I'm just gonna go ahead and lower it to 1/8. Pop another one, and we'll just use whichever one is most appropriate. So that's lighting the actual interior. Now we're gonna do some window pulls here. So bring it over to my third setting there. You don't need a ton here. I find that the more you overpower it, the more you get glares on the windows, and that's not very attractive. So I'm gonna start at 1/4 and see how we do. You kind of wanna sort of match the angle of your camera with the direction of the flash when you're pointing at the windows here. If you there's like a certain realm of angle where you kind of get a lot of glare. So you need to be careful of that. And you can just, you'll learn as you go. So if I just point at this main window here, there you go, there's a glare. So I can fix that in a second. I'll point at the other ones here. And I don't know if you can tell, but I have the blinds flat. Angling them can cause shadows. Even better if you can pull them up, that's good. I'm gonna up it to 1/4 plus 7 here, just to make sure I'm blasting these windows. And then I'm just gonna walk over here and get a different angle on this one here. That actually works perfectly for the entire window there. So I have my camera set to the auto review, just holds it here so I can come back, check the thing without hitting any buttons. And I think that looks good. That's all the stuff that we need to actually blend this room together. So this video is now gonna cut to me at my PC and we will blend these images. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the editing portion of the video here. As you can see, we have 8 rooms that we shot in this house. We'll be covering the living room in this first video here, obviously. And we're going to be going kind of slow. This will probably be the longest video in the series because I'll be showing you guys how to build presets in Lightroom as well as actions in Photoshop to speed up this process and make it very easy for you. So first things first, let's take a look at the data that we got from this room here. This is our ambient shot. This is our primary flash shot. Our fill flashes left to right. Our 2 fill flashes for in here. We'll probably end up using this one because it's not as blown out as that one is. And then the different window pulls that we took there. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and build a preset to put onto these shots here. I have this one here that I normally use, and I'm just going to show you how I build it myself. So allow me to actually collapse all these here, and we're going to just start new with a new folder of presets that we'll use. So basically, we're going to go through and just double check all of our settings here on the right hand side. So first things first, you want to pick a camera matching profile. Camera standard could do the trick for you. Camera flat also is nice, but you kind of have to add some extra contrast into it. It's very flat. Nice for HDR work though. And I prefer camera natural, just a very nice, it's got some richness to it, but it's also not too contrasty. White balance we're going to leave alone. Exposure and contrast we'll leave alone. Highlights, we're going to bring these down by 50, and the shadows we will boost by 50. Just to get a bit of extra dynamic range out of each of our shots here. Continuing down, we're going to leave the rest of that alone. We won't mess with the tone curve at the moment. Also not going to mix with the color mixer in the detail panel. I prefer to go anywhere from 40 to 60 on sharpening. So I'll do 60 here. Radius, you can mess around with 1.5. See if that gives you anything good right there. And then masking, we're going to do 30. The reason we're doing 30, if I hold Alt and click on masking, you see if I have it at 0, the whole frame is being sharpened, but we only want the edges of objects to be sharpened, and that starts to happen around 30, as you can see right there. So the only areas that are being sharpened are the white areas, and all the black is not being sharpened. So that does it for me there. 60-30 for the sharpening. Noise reduction, you can toy with like pushing in maybe 5 or 10. I don't know. I personally don't get a whole lot out of I feel like my images aren't super noisy, so I don't really need those there. Remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections for your lens. This is very important. And then in manual here, I like to add a 3 or a 4 to the D fringe here. And that's basically our import preset. This is what we do to all of our images. So let's go ahead and build this as a preset. I'm going to go ahead and click this, create preset, and we'll start a new group. We'll just call this YouTube tutorials. Okay, and then so the things that we want to, that basically just check the stuff that we have changed here. Detail, lens corrections, not very much, it's very minimal. And we'll just call this import preset. We'll just call it like 50 highlights and shadows. I like to add extra information into my preset name so I know what they do. And then 60-30 sharpening. Okay, create. Now we're just going to click, hold shift and click all these, and we will click it with this import preset, and now they all have had these settings applied to them. There's something we can make a different preset for the window pulls here. So let's go ahead and mess with this a little bit. So let's hit reset. And what I will do here is I'll leave the highlights at 0. Shadows I will boost by maybe like 25. And then with windows here, because we're only using the actual exterior for these, we can maybe like increase the clarity by, let's say 20. I'll boost the contrast by 10 or 15. And let's add some saturation and vibrance. Maybe 10 saturation, 5 vibrance. Normally this would be a huge faux pas for interior work, but since we're using it for the exterior here, we just kind of want it to look a little nice. And let's scroll down. Let's go to the color mixer here. And for saturation, let's add maybe like a 25 to green and a 25 to blue, just kind of make the exterior pop a little bit. And then for luminance, I actually like to kind of drop blue by like maybe 5 or 10. Let's do 5. Same with green. We'll drop green maybe by like 5. Same with yellow. Cool. Okay, that just kind of makes the exterior pop a little bit more. Same thing here. Let's go ahead and just do our 60-30 sharpening here. And make sure we have defringe here. And then we have those there. Okay, cool. So here is our window pull preset. So let's go ahead and create this. And we need to go through and check all of the stuff that we've adjusted. We could add some texture too if we wanted to, but I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. Color mixer, lens corrections. Okay, and this will be our window pull preset. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and take all of these. We'll reset them, and we'll apply the window pull preset there. Cool. All right, so now we are ready to begin. Everything is prepared. So what we'll need to do is take a look at our ambient layer here. We're only using this for its brightness value, how bright the room is. And then the flash layers we use for the color information. And we just mix those two together to create the actual final image. And then the window pulls are kind of its own separate beast. This is all stuff I've covered in the Flambient blending for large rooms video. You can go check that out if you'd like. But I'm also intending this to just also be, a very basic Flambient tutorial for beginners that goes into all different kinds of rooms of a house. So I will also, I've been personally adding a +5 to distortion. Let me hit constrain crop there so that we don't get any transparent edges. Even with the profile corrections on for like barrel distortion, I find that my camera kind of benefits, or my lens kind of benefits from a +5 to distortion, because I think it just really helps with some of the edges that get kind of curved around here. Like you can see, there's a little bit on the edges there, and a +3 or a +5 kind of helps that out for me. So I'm just going to add that there. Yeah, but this looks fine. Peak of the histogram's kind of right here, right of center. I might boost it by 0.2. Yeah, that's fine. And then here, let's take a look at this. I'm going to shift click all of the main flash layers here, and let's get the white balance set. This already looks pretty close. At 440 +19, let's just take a few samples here, see what happens. That didn't even really change anything, change the tint. This is probably not going to be super accurate because it's farther into the room. Yeah, the tint is changing there. Yeah, I mean, this all looks pretty close. That warmed it up there. I think I'm just going to kind of just hang out in this area, 430, 50, around the 440 range. Do I want the tint to be 20? You can see what 15 looks like. That's a little too green, maybe 18. Just adjust this to taste. You are the one. That's the thing about Flambient, is you are the one in the house, and you can see like what the color is and how it looks, and match it all up, because you were there. So yeah, this looks good white balance wise. Peak of the histogram just right of center. I can probably boost this by like just a bit. And then let's look at these. So this one I'm looking over here. And then this one I'm looking over here. So these could probably stand to go up. I like to make these just a tad too bright without blowing things out. So let's go plus 0.15 for that. I won't be using this one. I will be using this one, and I am going to boost this by maybe 0.5. 0.7? 0.8. Let's do 0.8. And then let's go through and actually pick which ones we need to use here. I think we need to use this one because this is for these here.
Yeah, that looks fine. And this one for this window also looks fine. The outside looks nice and vibrant, but not too distracting where we're just like, cranking the contrast, baby. We don't do that here. Okay, so I picked those two, and let me pick this one, P. Just kind of helps to, like, as you go through and prepare these files, to see which ones are needed here. So it's like, okay, those I need, and then these two I need. Okay, so now that we have all those selected, we right-click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so here we are, have all of the photos selected in Lightroom, opened up as layers here in Photoshop. Now, I'm not going to be incorporating any alignment stuff into my actions here. I shoot on a sturdy tripod and I use my phone as a trigger. The only time I ever touch my camera is when I'm changing the modes, and that's just a little wheel that I change on the top of the camera. So all of these, like, I never really run into any alignment issues. Very careful about that, but if you want to, you can incorporate that into your actions here. So let me go ahead and collapse all these down, and we are going to start a new group here. We'll call this YouTube Tutorials in our actions. I like to have my history, actions, and properties all right here on this side, as well as a histogram up here. It's just the way I like to work. So we are going to build a basic Flambient blend action here. So with this group selected, let's go plus, and we'll do, let's call this 01 basic Flambient blend. Okay, and we'll hit record. So this is going to be an action that will do our job for us here. So with this first layer selected, the ambient layer, I will hit luminosity blend mode here, and then an opacity of 50%. Okay, and then I will click and drag to add this to a group. I will call the group Ambient, and I will click layer mask right here, and then I will hit stop. Now what this does is we have taken the ambient layer, changed it to luminosity mode, so we're only getting the brightness value out of it, and that is being applied to this flash layer down here, right there. And then I place it into a group with its own little mask, so if I want to, I can erase ambient information from the frame here. So as you can see, if I turn the ambient off, the windows darken up. Turn it on, the windows get brighter, because in the ambient frame, the windows were very bright. So one little thing that I actually like to do is you can take an object selection tool. This is if you haven't done any window pulls, but it kind of makes, it's just an easy window pull. You just select a window, and then you can, either with black as your background color, hit delete, and that will actually completely remove all of the ambient from that window. It might look a little stark, or you can hit B for brush, for the low flow, normal blend mode. I have to use 50% hardness and 25% spacing. You can just kind of brush in or brush out that ambient where you don't want it. That's also another option. I have some actions set up for me that I made, where it feathers the selection by 1 pixel and fills it with 90% black. And I will include a lot of these actions like in a zip file in the descriptions of these videos if you want to use them yourself. Yeah, so like this is my F12 one. So if I were to select the window and hit F12, it fills it with 50% black. As you can see, there it is. And also feathers the selection as well. And I mostly use this Control-Shift F12, which is a 90% black. It's not completely black, but yeah, it's just like a quick window pull if your flash layer has a decent looking window out of it. But yeah, so this is the initial blend here, but we need to brighten up this area back here. As you can see, it's too dark, and this is too dark too. Like I had said when I was shooting, I wasn't sure if this would be bright enough, and it definitely isn't. We need to fix that. So let's turn off the ambient layer, let's turn off the flash layer, and let's blend this together, these two. So with this layer selected, let's hit it with a layer mask, G for gradient, go to our basic black to white gradient, and we're just gonna start kind of over here where I am, and I'm gonna click and drag, hold shift to keep it straight, go until I see myself again, and then back it up until I'm not there. And then we adjust this to taste. So I like to try to put them over the lights because it kind of gives it a more like natural bright look, but sometimes you have to kind of go based off of what you see on the ceiling. See that? It's also a factor. You don't want that to be a thing. So right in the middle looks good. Then I'm gonna hit Control, click on this one, and hit Control E to merge those two together. And now we just have a very bright section back here. So now what I'll do is I'll turn on the normal flash pop again, put this new layer on top, and change it to screen. Now what screen will do is it will just apply the brightness value of the frame onto the layer below it. It's obviously way too bright. So I'm gonna lower the opacity and push it up until that back area looks illuminated well enough. So maybe like about 50%. I've noticed that different areas tend to have very consistent opacities. Sometimes I only need like 15%, sometimes I need 25, sometimes an even 50, sometimes a full like 90 or 100%. Those are very common values. So I hit hold Alt and hit layer mask, so it's hiding the screen layer down here. B for brush, white as my color, low flow again. I'm just gonna come in and brighten up this back area just to taste. Not worried about the windows because we're gonna do window pulls. If we didn't do window pulls, I would be a little careful of the windows. I would also probably like object select them and delete them from the mask of the screen layer after the fact. But yeah, just brightening up this back area just to taste. You can also use it to illuminate other parts of the screen that might be not well illuminated, just to even things out. So yeah, there you go. Lit up the back area nicely. Control, click that, Control E. So now that's our primary flash layer. If I turn on the ambient, you can see it definitely looks way better here. So let's go ahead and add this doorway here. Do the same thing, set it to screen, make sure it's on top. Let's play with the opacity, get it to where we want it. That's probably around 50% again. Alt, click the layer mask, and we'll just paint it in. Low flow brush. Typically doorways tend to look okay. Just brushing over them like this. You might want to switch to black and go over the edges a little bit, but it tends to look fine, and then the ambient fixes it nicely. So again, click this while holding Control E, those are merged, turn on the ambient, there you go. Now, I find that when I have an ambient pointed directly at bright windows, it can kind of make the room look a little weird. So even with a luminosity opacity of 50%, I sometimes like to just bring this actual ambient group down, maybe to like 75%. I think that looks a little bit better here, just slightly less ambient, making the room look kind of, dark. It wasn't actually super well lit, so we're gonna lean a little more on the flash for the lighting here. Histogram looks good there. So now let's go ahead and build a window pull action. So going back to this here, hit plus and we'll do O2 window pull. All right, so with our window pull selected, I am going to, what is this? What is this action? Or what is this, this shortcut? Hold on, I gotta figure this out. Okay, so I'll put this on screen. It's Control Shift right bracket. Yeah, that brings it to the front. And then we will change it to darken blending mode. Hold Alt and hit it with a mask. And that is all you need for the window pull action. So we can do the same on this one here. We have this window pull. We just play the window pull action and boop, there it goes, ready to go. So with the darken blending mode, anything that is overexposed, like the interior that we're flashing so hard, will not show up in the actual image. but all the dark stuff will. So this one that we have selected, if I turn this off, you can see this was this window right here that we were blasting. So with the layer mask selected, I'm just going to go to my polygonal lasso tool and very loosely go around the area that we overexposed. Double click to close that. White as my background color, hit delete, and there's the easiest window pull you've ever done in your life. Same with this one down here. I'm just going to loosely go over all of them. We have all these blinds, and you know what? Doesn't matter. Boom, done. Easy peasy. And it looks, you know, very nice, very clean, natural look. We didn't make it look too crazy out there. And the nice thing is, like, if it looks too dark, you can always just like hit Control-Shift-A, and that'll bring up camera raw. And then you can just freaking crank the exposure if you want it to look a little bit brighter. And there you go. You can have that control over your window pull layer like that. So yeah, this is looking pretty good to me. I think we're going to go ahead and flatten it and maybe do a little bit of color correction here. So I have Control-Alt-Q set to flatten image. Now what we could do is we can make, I'm going to do a replace color layer is what we'll do here. So let's make another action. I'll just call this replace color layer. And we're going to go ahead and do this with a couple. I'm going to do another one after this as well for color adjustments. So we hit record. Going to go ahead and do Control-J to copy the layer. And now we want it to come up with a dialogue here. So I believe, how do we do this? We go insert menu item. Okay. And so we select a menu item using the mouse. So we go to adjustments, replace color. We hit OK. And so then it will pull up a replace color box. We'll do an adjustment and hold Alt, layer mask, and stop recording. So what this does here is we hit play, and it brings up the replace color box here. You want the fuzziness to be 120, so that's something you're going to have to make sure is set correctly every time. And we're going to go ahead and just go in here and like pick a darker color on the ceiling that doesn't look super attractive. And saturation, bring that down to maybe 24, 40. Just kind of, you know, takes out some of the grosser color. We hit OK. It finishes the action. So now we have this replace color layer just hidden with a layer mask. You can hit B for your brush, go to white, and just kind of paint out that color that you don't want from the ceiling. Easy peasy. Don't even really need to do this. It looks okay, but I'm doing it for the tutorial here. So, you know, before, after, very subtle fix. Control-Alt-Q. So let's go ahead and make another one. I'm going to call this one color fill layer. And we'll do 75% on this one. So record. Okay, so now what we do here is we go down and we make a solid color layer. It doesn't really matter what color we make it. So for this example, let's just go with like a, I don't know, a 90% white, pure white there. And then we turn the blend mode to color, and we click on the mask, Control-I to invert it, and we can stop recording. So, oh, actually, no, we can't stop recording. We need to adjust the opacity to 75%. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that's our other way to do a color adjustment, is we can just click this, hit play, double click this, choose an area of the ceiling that we want the ceiling to actually like look like all the way across. Click on the layer mask again with the brush, just brush over. Just kind of makes the color a little more even there. You can use the object selection tool to select just the ceiling. That usually does a pretty good job. Let me show you an example of that. Just boom, boom, go all the way down to the bottom there, and it will probably select this area up here very easily. Hold Alt, go over the light so it doesn't do that. Then with the layer mask selected, X to make white the background, hit delete, Control-D, That just made it all one color. Now, I don't love to go strong on the opacity for stuff like this because like it just looks fake. It looks like outsourced HDR. So sometimes like just playing with the opacity and just kind of pushing it the right direction is half the battle. So let's just go with that. I might add like just an ounce here on the wall because we're getting some outside color coming in there. Same with over here maybe. Yeah, it's fine. All right. Okay, and so that's done. Now we are going to hit Control S, Control W, and that will bring it back into Photoshop. There we go. Finished product, almost. So now what we're going to do is we're basically going to use one of Nathan Cool's post-blend bumps here. So I'll just show you this one. I think that the V2 here is his actual real numbers. But I'll show you what I have for this post-blend bump version 3 that I use for pretty much all my Flambient work here. So it's a plus 15 to exposure, plus 15 to contrast, minus 75 to highlights, plus 60 to shadows, plus 25 to whites, minus 45 to blacks, plus 10 to texture, plus 15 to clarity. I don't mess with any of this stuff here, looks like. No sharpening because I've already done that. And everything else is the same. Yeah, so it's really just this stuff right here that you're putting onto this TIFF that you've mixed. So let's go ahead and build this as its own preset here, which I'm basically just copying the preset from one thing to another, but that's okay. Let's call it Post Blend Bump. And it has an exposure setting, it has contrast, highlights, okay. And that is it, right? Just those things there. Hit create. Okay, so now I could like hit reset on this, and you can see if I do window post blend bump, that just really brings it in. So you can see some like there might be some weird color stuff going on over here. We could fix that with a color layer in Photoshop, but I'm going to leave it for now. And then with constrained crop turned on, I'm just going to hit it with a vertical, and it will probably adjust it just fine. So yeah, I would say that is a finished image. That looks pretty good to me. A few things here and there that could have been fixed, maybe like fixing some of the color coming in from the carpet there, but I'm not super worried about that. This looks pretty solid in my opinion. So that is the living room. Next video that we will be covering will be the kitchen. So I will see you guys in video 2.